My name is Felix. I'm a psychiatrist and have encountered a strange case that science cannot explain. When this happened in 2008, I'd been invited by a client to come to her home to evaluate her son's mental condition. The young man, then in his 20s, remained living in the family home, refusing to talk or visit with anyone. He was clearly suffering from severe autism. One particular thing, he loved to draw. In fact, he would often lock himself into his room for days at a time, or choose a secluded corner in the park only to draw pictures. Lately, he'd been showing signs of instability. He would look insecure, upset, sometimes even crazy, screaming that he was about to die. The mother had grown increasingly worried about her son's condition, and she reached out for my help in the hope that I would help him to recover. I asked for her permission to enter his room and to talk with him. Luckily, the door was unlocked, and I was able to get a slight peek inside. Pens and paint littered upon the floor, and the room was actually quite chaotic. Not what you'd expect from an art lover's haven. In one corner sat a skinny boy, painting with a blank look on his face, sometimes mumbling something incomprehensible. But before I could even step in, he began speaking to me, asking to know if I wanted to know my destiny or not. That was the very first time I had met such a patient. There was definitely something very mysterious about him. And as a psychiatrist, my first thought was that this person had indeed been suffering a mental problem, but I was curious about what he had to say. As I entered the room, he didn't scream or go crazy like his mother had told me. In fact, he proved to be extremely friendly towards me. He began holding and showing me his paintings, including a scene of a restaurant being burnt down, a traffic accident, and then numerous scenes of people being shot and killed, lying in pools of blood. The pictures also included numbers that he believed were the respective days that these events would occur. This strange guy also claimed that the scenes he drew were predictions that would happen in the future. Of course, like everyone else, I didn't believe what this young man was saying and thought he was merely showing signs of paranoia. I then left the unusual room to meet with his family and inform them that I would come back the next day to begin a mental treatment plan with him. However, the following day, and almost eerily, the famous restaurant that I would drive by every day suddenly caught fire as I passed by. I couldn't help but think that it looked so much like the boy's drawing. It was precisely this corner of the intersection. Everything was so detailed and accurate in the painting, but I'd not paid much attention until it actually happened. After witnessing the accident, I immediately drove on to meet the young man, but as I arrived, his house was closed. The neighbors said he'd gone crazy and had been rushed to the mental hospital by his parents. I hurriedly asked for the hospital's address and drove away. I usually turn on the radio every time I'm on the road to catch up on the news. On that day, a catastrophic series of shootings had occurred in a supermarket, killing many victims. What was even more strange was that everything went exactly as depicted in the boy's picture I had seen the previous day. Could he really be able to predict the future? As I arrived at the psychiatric hospital, he'd been tied to a bed. Although his body did not flinch, he would scream that he and his parents were about to die in an accident. A few hours later, the doctor concluded that his condition was too severe and that they had no sufficient means to calm him down. They recommended to the mother to move him to a better psychiatric hospital offering modern equipment and professional medical staff. His parents and the 2 hospital staff helped him to get into the car that would drive him to the downtown hospital. I joined them for the ride, but for some reason, he began fighting violently, refusing to board. Even on the way there, he kept screaming that the car should stop or all would die. His hysterical premonitions made me feel uneasy, and I suddenly remembered the picture of the accident I had seen the previous day. It was an image of a crashed ambulance following its collision with a container truck. But by the time I remembered, it was too late, and the accident had already occurred on the highway. Everyone in the car died, and I was the only survivor. Luckily, I was only injured, but nonetheless hospitalized, as both my legs were broken.